Hey, everybody. It is Saturday, throwing you a curveball this week. Saturday, September 16th, 2023, and you are listening to episode 28 of Black Box Signal. I am your host, back once again this week. Thank you for having me back, Chase Johnson. And Dustin is out on assignment this week, so I went and finally got him. I've talked about him a lot on a few episodes, but finally got him to grace us with his presence. Great friend of the show, Zach Ross. How's it going, man?
It's going all right. I hope I'm not setting everyone up for disappointment.
Never. That's my job as the guy, as the captain of this rickety ship. Yeah. So what's been going on with you? You said before we got on the show. You said you've been falling down a more of a weeb rabbit hole lately.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I live in the wee rabbit hole. Will be real, but I'm sure any other Bleach fans would probably share my feelings on kind of getting pulled back into the show, especially now more than ever, because as everyone's been talking about lately, the gacha game Bleach Brave Souls finally hit 8 million installs. So obviously that is the thing to be watching out for in this moment.
Right.
I don't even know what Thousand Year Blood War is supposed to be.
I was gonna say I have not watched Bleach since we were in high school still.
Yeah, no.
I don't even know what the hell's
So
going on in it anymore.
well, so Thousand Year Blood War, they finally started airing that late last year. And I believe we're getting to the end of the second core of episodes. I've not had a chance to even start watching this current one though. Um, but no, things are picking up. It's uh, if you remember the character Uryu,
Oh yeah,
his whole thing was he was a Quincy and he uses the bow and arrow. And now at the end of all things, there is a great war between the Soul Reapers and the Quincy's again. So that's what all this is
nice.
about. And
Team Quincy's. No. um,
traitor.
I have been. Well, I kind of told you about this, but I wrapped up. I actually finished it now. I wrapped up Mobile Suit Gundam Witch of Mercury.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, that was really good. Um, might be my favorite AU since Double O.
Okay.
I Double O still holds a really special place in my heart. Yours too, I know.
hmm
But I definitely like this one even better than Iron Blooded Orphans. Um,
That is high praise because I really, really enjoyed Iron Blooded Orphans.
yeah, which is funny because a lot of people, I guess, didn't. But I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
Fans are fans. You see, Universal Century is still my number one. Still number one with a bullet for me. But
I mean, I don't know. It's tough for me to say like UC is ever going to be my favorite when G Gundam exists. So
we're not gonna go there. I know you're just doing that to hurt me.
cut the
And
stream. We're
yep,
done
yep,
here.
we're done. And that was the episode, guys. Come back to um, but yeah, so the next thing I'm getting into, I'm finally catching up on Demon Slayer.
Okay. Yeah.
I've only watched the first season and I am now on I'd watched the first episode of the Mugen Train arc.
Okay.
Today
Yeah.
I
You guys
actually
are in
watched
for a
it
good
today.
time.
Yeah. Um,
How's Vi liking that one?
she's not watching that one with me.
Okay. That's honestly, probably for the best. I
Y-
mean,
yeah, yeah.
great.
You, we we watched the rest of My Hero that they have dubbed so far, and she didn't even watch the rest of it with me. So I don't know if she's starting to check out a little bit, or I don't know. But someday she'll watch. She's got a couple Demon Slayer shirts because she just likes everything that I like.
Yeah.
So hopefully when she's a little bit older, I'll introduce her to Tandro and crew. Um,
Yeah.
and
Eh,
then me and Shauna are still chipping away at JJK. Still on the first season.
so Tori and I actually are still trying to get our way through there. We actually just watched another episode before I joined up for this. We're still very early on in the first season, so
We are, I think our next episode is like 11 or 12. This is about where we're at.
you
Um,
I want to say that's a couple episodes past where we're at. We just got introduced to the character Nanami,
okay, yeah.
so
Um, so yeah, and Shauna is never, notoriously has never really been a big anime person. So I've just been, I hold the theory that there's an anime for everyone because there's so many different genres and subgenres. I first got her into Promise Neverland,
okay,
and she liked that to a degree. Um, and then got her into JJK, and she's liking JJK. The thing with her though in anime is like because we have kids and they're tiring, we get through like one episode and then she's like tired. She's like,
yeah.
I don't know what it is about anime, but even when like it's not boring, I get tired during it. So we only usually get like an episode in when we do get it in.
I was
Um
gonna say if you want like a nice, just a chill kind of cute show. Uh, I don't know if you guys have taken a chance to watch Spy X Family. But that one's a really good one.
no, I haven't.
Um, yeah, I highly recommend Spy X Family. It's really cute. Um, or My Dress Up Darling is actually a surprisingly cute show. It might be I don't know. Some of the themes might be a little too um really just skirting that line between I don't know if this is fully appropriate for kids to be around watching, but it, it's just a cute little romance show.
Yeah. Shauna actually likes because the one thing that she liked Promise Neverland, but the one thing that she likes about JJK right now is all the action.
Hmm.
So this is like the first one. This is the first one that I would say is like a traditional anime for her. Cause I mean,
Yeah.
everybody in Promise Neverland has like very English names. And the story is pretty, I guess you could say it's got a little bit more Western influence in it.
Yeah.
Where JJK is like let's be real, it's an anime ass anime.
Yeah.
Um, and she's actually liking it more than Promised Neverland. So I'm like, oh, so maybe you like the action pack stuff.
Well, if
Um,
you guys really like JJK, you can just fully kick her off into the deep end. It's like we're watching Bleach now.
well, yeah, it's Bleach, and then Dustin has been begging me, co-host, who's here normally. He's been begging me to finally get into One Piece. Um,
So that's actually what I want to talk about a little bit too.
okay, let's go. Let's go for it.
Because I I think One Piece is neat. I have the exact same thing to say about One Piece as anyone else on the internet. So
Which is just
I'm
watch One Piece.
no, I'm an adult and I have limited time in my life that is
Thank
quickly
you.
running out.
Thank you.
So I chose to just read the manga because that feels more respectful to my time than anything else.
Right,
But even
right.
then, no, I think One Piece is it's got a lot of really cool stuff, and I love talking to people that are honestly, I am envious of people that are current with One Piece
Dustin,
because
the way that he talks about One Piece is kind of like the way that I talk about Nier. Like that's how much he like, and he was like never that into it, but then like just this past like year or so, he got like super into it, and he's like all caught up with the dub. Um,
yeah,
he
which
loves it.
and it's just yeah, it is a story that so this is all going to be lead into the fact of me and Tori went and binged through all of the live action on Netflix last week.
Okay,
Or and yeah, it was just fun. They managed to actually and, I went through and counted it because I was curious at the end and yeah, they ended up condensing 45 episodes of the anime into 8 episodes on Netflix. And sure, they're about a little over an hour and a half each, but still that is a lot of content that they were able to get through, and they were able to do so in a way that was engaging, and it felt like everything connected well enough to each other. And they had to take some liberties with the plot,
right.
a couple characters and themes kind of didn't make it past the cutting room floor. Like it's unfortunate to note that, but like again, it it's not like it's not like One Piece is difficult to get a hold of as far as trying to read or watch.
Right.
It's just there's just so much of that shit front loaded.
It's a commitment.
um, so my buddy David, he after we got done watching the live action, was very insistent of like, yeah, if you want to like by far one of the best like early arcs of One Piece is the Ennis Lobby.
Mhm.
Which deals a lot with the character of Nico Robin, who isn't actually introduced in the live action show yet. I'm hoping it does get a second season because it should get to probably the Alabasta stuff should include her. Or if they get to Alabasta, which I'm pretty sure they will be, that's the next big arc after what they hit in the Netflix show. Nico Robin should be introduced there, but in any case, um, I've watched Ennis Lobby, like, just in a vacuum on its own, and yeah, it is it is the arc that made me realize, like, yeah, I actually do care about One Piece. This is just kind of fun and neat,
Yeah.
and that is still,
Your
like,
take.
45 that is still 45 episodes of dealing with One Piece backtracking, like, you know, every 5 minutes. And to fully understand everything going on, it really does help to watch the arc that immediately preceded it that actually leads up into it, which was another 30 episodes. So like
Right.
it I remember just like trying to like, explain this all at the Tori, and she's like, I don't think I want to do that right now.
Right. That's yeah. You know, when we were in high school, we had that whole ninjas versus pirates thing, and that made me write off One Piece as a kid
Oh yeah.
because I was Team Ninja, and I know you were too. But now that I'm
Oh
an
yeah.
adult and my personal politics, Dustin was like, "I'm surprised you're not into One Piece," and I'm like, "Maybe someday I'll give it a shot when I
Also
catch up on everything else."
also a fun like blast from the past and everything. I did manage to find my friggin' headband from forever ago. So
Oh yeah, I have mine packed away, and then I have my funny one that's in my profile picture on Twitter,
yeah.
the Rogue Ninja American flag one. Um,
Yeah.
that one's definitely become my favorite.
The important one.
Yeah, it's not as high as quality because it's plastic instead of metal, but hey,
Oh, I didn't know that, but
yeah,
well,
it still works. You know. But with that, do you want to get into video games?
I suppose it is makes sense for us to get into video games.
Well, then let's do it.
All right.
All right. So what have you been playing? I guess usually it's what have you been playing this week, but this is your first time on the show, so we'll just kick it over to what have you been playing lately.
Okay. So I made the joke about it earlier, and yes, I have been falling back into the gotcha game rabbit hole that is Bleach lately. But on top of that, I still have been dipping my toes back into Genshin. With I'm not current with the storyline in Genshin, but my fiance Tori is. So I've been watching a little bit of her playing through the newest region that came out like this past, like I think just the beginning of this month was Fontaine.
Mhm.
It's very French inspired as far as like a region goes. But it has a lot of aqueducts and lakes and everything like that. It's a very honestly, it's a very cool looking region. Um, but I'm also excited because the storyline of this one seems to deal with so like every region in Genshin has a archon or a god that is like kind of has dominion over that country.
Right.
In the beginning, it was Venti. Uh, sorry, spoilers for anyone starting gotcha game that's came out like what 3 years ago now. But
Yeah.
uh, the air region was lorded over by the Archon of Freedom. After that, it was uh, the Archon of Contracts and Commerce, who was the Earth one. The Raiden Shogun was the Archon of Eternity, and then it went to the Archon of Wisdom, which was the plant. They call it Dendro in the in game. And then finally, we're into the water area, and that is being lorded over by the Archon of Justice. So everything's supposed to be very like not so much uh like Captain America style, like going out and do gooding. It's more like law and like court battles and everything.
Okay.
And the plot of it so far has moved into effectively you're trying to defend another character in a case, almost Phoenix Wright style, and
I was
that is
about
my
to
shit.
say Phoenix, right? I was like, "Yup."
So I'm invested in that. I just have to get to it in my own save, but whatever. We'll burn that bridge when we cross it. Also, because of I think we're going to talk a little bit about it later. I miss the state of play. But I
Uh-huh.
do know one of the things that came out from it is that Tales of Arise is getting story DLC
Yep.
soon. And as much as I love my Tales games, I am just a terrible bundle of ADHD and I can never finish a single goddamn game within a year.
Yeah.
So I am now using November 9th as my time to try and finish out fucking Tales of Arise.
I never finished it either. I ended up because I do this thing where it's like because I have limited funds, I'll play most of a game, and then if another game comes out that I want to play more, I'll end up trading it in before I finish it, and then be like, "Man, I
Yeah,
miss it."
yeah.
And
No,
yeah, that's what happened with it, unfortunately.
yeah, so I am enjoying the story of Tales. It's just it's been difficult for me to force myself to sit down and play through a game. And this one has been kind of in a back burner status for a while because ever since the about like two expansions of Final Fantasy 14 ago, I've finally kind of been at a good spot of like I can take a break from this finally. Like Endwalker's great. Uh Everyone go play the critically acclaimed MMO that everyone memes about. It's fun. But yeah, and Walker was satisfying for me to the point of I can finally step away from this and go do some of the other things.
Well, it
So
wasn't that one kind of like the wrap up of like the major arc that they've been telling too? So,
yeah, so like it's it's been fun, kind of funny that like because with FanFest this past year, I think that was God, was that just a month ago now?
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So FanFest they ended up showing the trailer for the new expansion coming up, which is Dawn Trail, I want to
Yep.
say is the correct name. And it has been funny just sitting back and like seeing the stark difference between the Endwalker like announcement trailer versus the Dawn Trail one of Endwalker is very much like, oh yeah, it's the like apocalypse, everything's like falling apart. Oh my god. And then we get like the Dawn Trail uh
And it's like new
the
beginnings.
yeah, well, it's like, oh yeah, we're going on an ocean voyage. We get to go to like a cool like beachside town. Look, we can eat tacos and just have a fun time. It's nice.
Nice.
So I'm sure they'll find some way to absolutely crush me emotionally and leave me a wreck. But for right now, it looks like things are just chill, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I appreciate that. Um, but also I appreciate being able to play some of my other video games that I've been neglecting. So
Right.
again, knowing that there's story DLC coming up for Tales of Arise, this seems like the great time for me to finally get back to playing it.
Right. That would be yeah, I wanna hear how
So
you like it.
naturally, I've been playing the Star Ocean second story demo instead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. I make that joke all the time where it's like, "So, new game comes out, and I've been playing Quake 2 Remaster." Alright, uh,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be me if I wasn't checking in on this. How's 16 going?
So because Tori and I are trying to play 16 cooperatively.
Right.
Um, I've not gotten much further in it because we've just not had the time to really sit down and play a very story-driven RPG together.
I hear you.
Usually, if it comes down to like we want to like go through a story, we've just been watching stuff together.
Right.
Um, she's been she's been basically the constant source of keeping me honest on binging shows and getting through the end of it.
Yeah.
Um, So in the span of time since starting Final Fantasy 16, I've watched all of Owl House and Amphibia. So anyone with Disney Plus should go check those out. Those are fun cartoons.
How what are you still in the same spot that where we talked last? You just beat Benedicta?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Still pretty early
um
on.
she's fine. Everything's fine.
Right, yeah. Sorry,
It
we've already spoiled the whole entire thing on this podcast. That's why I didn't tell you to listen to last week's episode because
no, it's
last week
fine.
was the I finally finished it and we went full blown into the ending and all that whatnot. But um
Okay.
yeah,
So I
I love her summon though. Like that became one of my favorite summons to use
yeah,
for a while.
in the other Discord that I frequent, my server handle is resident Garuda apologist. So that's basically where I'm at in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Um bird waifus for lifu, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, uh what else is there to talk about? Oh, from so I don't know. I think I will wait to talk more about this once we get to talking about the Nintendo Direct.
Okay.
I don't know if we wanted to jump into that now or what your plan was on.
Let me touch on a little bit because I don't got too much more to say about it. I've been still chipping away at Armored Core 6.
Yeah.
I finally hit the chapter 1, I think it's the chapter 1 boss fight and got my shit wrecked. Um
Is that the helicopter?
no, the helicopter wrecked my shit and that's in the tutorial.
Okay.
And it did wreck my shit for a while because that's like before you can customize your mech or anything.
Okay.
Um this is the one where you have to fight a bunch of invisible mechs that are like have cloaking suits, and then one of them has like a, an energy shield. They call it a pulse armor, and like
Mhm.
this whip, this like energy whip that can like span like really long. So you're basically dealing with four mechs in this fight. Three of them are like you can take them. Like they take a little bit, but you can take them. But the one guy that has the shield and the whip, just every time I take out the three, that one dude just totally destroys me. Um, I
So
have
is he
two.
built out kind of like a golfer?
He problem is he keeps cloaking, so I can't get a good look at him.
Oh, okay.
I can just see his shield. All I know is he has a regular shield in front of him. He has missiles, and it has this, like I said, this huge energy whip. It's more like a beam whip. Like the whole whip is made out of a beam.
Okay.
Um, and it's super long. Um, so you have to like the mechanic in when you're fighting another AC, when you're fighting another armored core, is you have to basically knock down their uh meter, which is like a stagger meter. I can't remember
Mhm.
exactly what they call it in it. And then you can kind of go in and like really hurt them when they're staggered. It's AP, that's what it is. AP, once their AP limit is reached, um,
Mhm.
you can kind of go in and like you could still do damage kind of like in it, but you do considerable more when you hit that meter. Because he has a pulse shield, I have to drain the pulse shield first, then burn his AP and then go in. So I've been using my double O right
Mhm.
now against him. Which I mean the paint scheme just kind of looks like the double O, and because I have two big plasma cannons on the back that shoot plasma missiles. Um Kind of looks a little bit more like the double O than the Exia, so I renamed him double O. And I have a laser rifle, which I like the laser rifle in my right hand, and a laser sword because they have a pulse sword originally, but I have a laser sword in my left hand. Um, and I'm thinking I might have to bust out heavy arms for this fight. Heavy arms is another one that I made based off of heavy arms.
Mhm.
He has two machine guns because I don't have the Gatling guns unlocked yet, and then on his shoulders he has missile pods, just traditional missile pods. So I might try to go into the fight with that, um, because this game does kind of like encourage you to like, hey, have more than one mech build.
Yeah,
Um,
I've been told that it is very like it is it's still a challenge to S rank missions with that in mind. because ideally you could figure out like you would know ahead of enough of what you're going to be coming across in each mission, build yourself accordingly so like you'll have enough for your kit and also ammunition to get you through the entire mission without having to switch midway through. But
Right.
yeah, I have heard from multiple sources that it is a very it is not one of those like you are expected to just build yourself out one robot and be like, yeah, this will be perfect for any sort of
Right.
situation.
Yeah, that's what I was saying a couple podcasts ago, that if like you're looking at this like a traditional Souls game where you're just going to be like, I'm going to be a sword board, or I'm going to be, strictly magic.
Hmm.
It's not a traditional From game in that sense. It's a traditional Armored Core game where you're going to want to have, and they even kind of name it loadouts to kind of imply that
Yeah.
you need more than one. So I have heavy arms built, which I painted them to make them look like the color scheme of heavy arms, custom from Endless Waltz.
Hmm.
I'm waiting to get the sniper so I can make a dynamis.
Oh, that'll be cool.
I've just been kind of, that's probably where I've been having the most fun, is like the gearhead tinkering.
Now,
Which
have you been
I'm
switching out? Oh,
oh,
sorry.
nope, go ahead.
No, just on that note, have you been exploring any like the different like leg styles as well, like the treads or the forelegs?
So I just unlocked those.
Okay.
I wasn't really a big fan of the tank. And currently right now with what I have equipped on my double O and on my heavy arms, I don't have enough energy to use the tetrapod legs, but I did do the training mission with the tetrapod legs. Um, it seems kind of cool because you can like hover with them,
Yeah.
which you can't do with the other ones. But other than that, I haven't really messed with it too much yet. I don't know. I'm also very much a purist, and I'm like picking things based on looks, not based on function too much.
Hmm.
Except for the weapons. The weapons I kind of go, but like as far as like looks go, I'm like, oh, these arms look cool. Oh, these legs look cool. So I'm basically trying to make them look as close to Gundams as possible.
I would definitely be in that same headspace too, and like I'm trying to because I do want to get AC6. I've heard a lot of good things. It sounds like it is a much nicer return to form than what AC5 was back when that came out, like
Yeah,
a little over a decade ago now. God.
yeah,
Um, but I remember my one of my friends who's been a really big fan of the Armored Core series as a whole likens this one a lot to Armored Core 4 Answers. So like that bodes well for me.
right. Yeah, it
I
definitely the sense of like, the one thing I really like about it is just like the movement. The general movement feels really good.
mhm,
Like you can move pretty quick, but you still have that sense of weight. Um so and I just actually just equipped some boosters that actually allow me to boost, not necessarily boost faster, but there's a shorter time between your dodges basically.
okay.
Your dodges. So like instead of being like square, square, it's more like a square, square. Like it's a little bit, because square's your dodge button.
Hmm.
Um, it's so it's a little bit quicker. You obviously burn the meter a little bit faster, but it allows you to kind of like evade a little bit quicker. That's the kind of builds I'm going for, is the more speedy builds, um, versus like
Yeah.
your big heavy tanks. Not gonna lie though, I have seen some pretty cool like big heavy guys too, but there's obviously that trade off with it where you're not going to be able to move as quick. Um,
I mean, I know myself well enough to understand that like when I finally got my hands on this, I'm gonna be building a lot of like fast enough to get in close and then just start ripping apart in melee.
yeah, yeah, that's why I like, still like a lot of people that I've been watching, they get rid of their melees right away. I still have one because melee still does like the most amount of damage when you get in really
Yeah.
close. I mean, obviously you want some stuff to like, especially with this this boss fight that I'm in, which is why I'm thinking about trying out heavy arms, because my heavy arms doesn't have any melee weapons equipped.
Hmm.
This one I might want to kind of hang back because of that freaking whip. Does so much damage. I want to just stay away from it. But overall, um, I know later on, like you get this big like piston drill that does like a lot of damage. Um, and yeah, I've been definitely enjoying it. I don't know how much I'll stick with it, because I'm definitely starting to hit that point, that frustration point a little bit. Um, but I'm trying to work past that.
Yeah.
Um,
It it is definitely, like, rough to have to be, dealing with, um, that whole, like, yeah, there's only so many hours in a day to get good.
right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and as someone who, like, has been a fan of Souls games for a few years now and still having not beaten one, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that the funny thing is like the one that I made it the farthest in was Elden Ring. And I put it down not because it got too hard. I put it down because I kind of got to the point to where like I was like, okay, I've kind of seen where I wanted to see in this,
Yeah.
and my build was where I wanted it to be at. And then I was like, okay, I don't really feel like just doing boss fight after boss fight after boss fight at this point. Um, and the story wasn't gripping me in Elden Ring, and
I've
I'm very much like
I've
a
been told that,
narrative.
like, yeah, from what I've been hearing, like, even by the pattern that is story games and Souls games, like, Elden Ring was just very difficult to, like, connect the pieces together because, it's kind of the one weakness of, like, fully open world games and, like, the fact that you can go anywhere is I find that, like, FromSoft does a really good job with, like, their story or, like, their, environmental storytelling and, like, getting yourself, like or, like, just, like, leaving the breadcrumbs when they know you're gonna be coming from a specific way and, like, encountering things in this order to or, like, at least to have some degree of control of how the player is going to interact with a piece of the world, and once it goes fully open world and anyone can go anywhere, and then plus, like, yeah, I've been told that, like, the sheer number of bosses in Elden Ring is, like, staggering compared to any other game in the series. When you get down to, like, actual unique boss, encounters, it's actually ranking as one of the, lower ones in that regard of
Mhm.
you're getting it with a lot more, like, quantity over quality as far as the boss fights go, is
Right.
um, and again, like, they stop feeling special, and the
Mhm.
ones that are special are really fucking hard.
Yeah. The one thing I will say about Armored Core, even though like it doesn't really go too crazy with the story, but I am liking the story bits that they have dropped in so far.
Mhm,
Without going into any spoilers, it's pretty much about you're on this planet called Rubicon, and you're mining this thing called you're basically a mercenary that keeps getting hired between all these different organizations that are fighting over coral. That's what the
mhm,
resource is called. That like it's this rare resource that like every other planet ran out of, but then you found one that had like a huge abundance of it. And then so you have all these corporations, and then you have what they call the Rubicon Liberation Front, which I'm guessing are the locals. So it's like this big battle
yeah,
between all these different corps and then the Liberation Front, and I'm hoping you join the Liberation Front at some point. I feel like that's where it's gonna go. Um,
that's my hope
also,
too.
your handler's Endeavor, so that's kind of cool. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate the voice actor they, tapped for, Walter and just he's again, I don't know. Endeavor's not the best example of, like, anime dad, but
no, no,
it is still anime dad voices,
for
a
sure,
lot of, Patrick Seats's, character types that I've seen him end up playing, so
right,
I appreciate a lot of his, work in the past, so
yeah. So yeah, I'm just hoping that we end up like this mission that I'm on is actually we were hired by the Liberation Front. So I mean, you're literally just a hired gun. So whoever pays you the money, you'll go work for.
yeah.
So I'm hoping that maybe down the line we'll have this switch of like we're only working for the Liberation Front. Um, because they're just basically strip mining. I mean, all these corps are
Yeah,
just basically strip mining this planet. Uh, so, and that's not good. So,
yeah. J just being a general guy that does not exist within the upper echelons of society, I can't help but feel for the people that are, having their home completely destroyed by corporate interests.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I'm not an expert, but um well, with that, do you want to go ahead and get into the news of the week?
Yeah, uh I am interested to see what your takes are and also what some news is.
All right. And there goes the sound cue. All right. One of these days I'll have us I've said it on so many episodes of the podcast. One of these days I'm gonna have like a stinger transition on the screen for the people who watch this podcast, but I'm not that cool yet. Um we could start though with the Nintendo Direct. There was they I thought overall this Nintendo Direct was really good.
Yeah,
Um
I will say I did not walk out of this one as excited as I had in like past ones, but still it's been uh the two big or like the main takeaway I had from this Nintendo Direct was I don't recall if there was a life sim game this time at all, and like that is a marked improvement over like not that I have anything against life sim games, but it had gotten to that point of all right, we got we're getting like so many Nintendo Directs a year and we're getting like five different like and you can, build your life by farming and also
yeah.
protecting the land, but also it's just yeah, it was getting to be a lot and it started to I'm starting to feel a little stale on that. So I was happy to see that that was not the case this time around, and even though I'm not a big racer, I felt like this one had a lot of stuff that was just kind of neat for people that do like driving fast.
I was excited and then not excited because I don't have my Nintendo Online anymore. So I might have to get that back. But I've been talking about forever wanting a new F Zero, and then they showed F-Zero 99, and I was like,
Yeah.
God damn it. They're gonna suck me back in. It's okay. I'm canceling my PlayStation 1 here soon, so maybe I'll just
uh,
switch it over to that. But that had
it-
me excited. They showed more of Super Mario RPG, which I have on pre-order. Definitely gonna be playing
mhm,
that this year. Um, Violet was really excited, and I was too. That Peach game finally got a name. Princess Peach Showtime.
mhm.
That looked really cool, really
Yeah, I
fun.
think that looks really cute, and um I remember talking to my fiance about it, and um it is funny because like she actually did play through the other the Super Princess Peach game on DS, and she really enjoyed that one. So I was kind of curious to see how she'll take to this one because I imagine I'll probably pick it up at some point.
Yeah.
Um, but I think I'm with you on because I never got to play Super Mario RPG or the closeout for the direct. I didn't get to play that either when it first came around, so I was very happy to see that those are coming to Switch.
Yeah. They also showed, well, they closed out with what we're alluding to is a Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, which I did play, but I never finished.
Okay.
This was my girlfriend at the time in high school. She had a GameCube and played it a bunch. And then when I got the GameCube, it was like super late in the GameCube's life
Hmm.
and just never got around to it. So I'm excited to pick both of those up. Um, and then I was actually really excited because I played a lot of this Mario versus Donkey Kong. Uh,
Okay.
I played the original Donkey Kong on the Game Boy, and so many of those levels are plucked from that game. Um,
Okay.
to where even like the music was like unlocking a core memory in my brain of me playing my original gray brick Game Boy with the little worm light over it in the car, and I was playing Donkey Kong. Um, which it was just called Donkey Kong at the time.
Yeah.
And instead of saving toys, you were saving Pauline. But I mean, whatever. Like other than that, though, all the levels, the boss fight that they showed is the boss fight from the first world in that game. Um, so I'm really excited for that one, even too. Um, they showed off. Let's see. Oh, Sora's finally getting an amiibo. Um,
Hmm.
so that's cool. I've kind of slowed down on my amiibo purchases. I do still need to get Sephiroth though, um, and then Sora, and then I'll probably make those like my last two that I get. Um,
So because like so here's the thing with me and Amiibo of like I'm only trying to get the ones that I actually care about like the series for.
right.
And when it comes to Zelda, like I'm at that well Zelda and both Xenoblade at this stage of I don't want to have to take the manslaughter avenue, but at this point it's not off the table anymore. So I'm glad I managed to get my pre-orders in.
Yeah, which is really funny because like I know this is a weird take, and I know I'm not. I've said this before on the podcast, and I know this isn't a popular opinion, but I was not the biggest fan of Breath of the Wild.
hmm
So I have the Breath of the Wild amiibos, some of them, and I'm like, why do I have these? Like, so I'm actually considering getting rid of those. Like sending them to like disc traders or something because they're still in the box and everything.
Yeah, no,
Um,
they do well on secondhand. Um because I don't know. I don't have every single Legend of Zelda amiibo because after a point it got to be like I don't
it was like the
need.
Mario ones. The Mario ones got really ridiculous too.
Yeah, it's like I don't like even though I understand like they do come with different things specifically for Breath of the Wild, I wasn't interested in having like a dozen different versions of just Link.
Right,
Even though I like the character a lot, it got to like that stage of like the differences between how he appears in Twilight Princess versus how the amiibo appeared for Skyward Sword was just so like minimal. Like, yeah, I understand what the difference is, but it doesn't look that you know interesting when on a shelf.
right. I
So
remember with oh, go ahead.
I don't know. It's more me just beating the dead horse of like, yeah, I didn't need that many of Link, and even then I look over at my shelf and it's like, yeah, no, there's a lot of green tunics.
Yeah. Well, that was me with like I had to be like very specific when I would ask for amiibos for like my birthday and Christmas because I have a bunch of the Mario ones, but they're from the Mario set. They're not from the Smash Brothers set.
Okay.
Um, so I was like, get these ones from the Mario set. Get these ones from the Zelda 30th anniversary set. Um, and then I think I've got one link, one Super Smash Brothers link, the P stand link. That they
Oh yeah,
call,
no,
you know,
he still gets to sit front and center.
yeah.
It's
And then I
important.
have like I have the 8-bit link, and the 8-bit Mario. I do have a silver and gold Mario too. Um, but yeah, I don't really think I'll pick up the Zelda and Ganondorf amiibo because I didn't even pick up Tears of the Kingdom because not being the
S-
biggest fan of Breath of the Wild, I just kind of skipped that guy. I ended up getting Final Fantasy 16 instead. Um,
Yeah, you got to pick your battles, and
right, yeah,
I I do have. It has been funny in that I was helping my fiance try and go through and get the memories for Breath of the Wild because at that point she has everything else that you really need in order to go through and finish the game.
yeah,
I'm still technically engaging with the DLC, but I've just not really been investing the time that I've needed to actually like do the whole Champions Battle thing. But um, it has been it has been amusing watching her go through and try and reacquaint herself with Breath of the Wild because like we both had put like hundreds of hours into that game the first time through, and she's trying to get into it again and just watching her get like progressively more salty and she's like this isn't as fun as Genshin.
yeah, yeah. It hit me when I was playing Breath of the Wild, trying to finish it again, before I finally just gave up and was like, you know what, it's okay. I don't have to finish this if I don't want to.
Yeah.
Um, it
YouTube
finally
exists.
it finally hit me that I prefer your traditional top-down Zeldas.
hmm
Like, cause I loved the Link's Awakening remake. Played so much of that. Um, and I just started thinking back and I was like, well, yeah, come to think of it, I liked Ocarina, but I wasn't like gaga for it like most people.
hmm
I'm not saying it's bad, it's a great game, but I still enjoy just those top downs more, and I feel like that's where I may need to stick is
Yeah, it was less about that style for how the game was being presented because I do appreciate like like how Breath of the Wild almost like didn't really reinvent open world, but like it found a way to make it more interesting to engage with.
Mhm.
And I like how since its release, open world games have kind of taken a lot of the lessons that Breath of the Wild was able to teach to you know like the industry as a whole. And I like to see how things have evolved as a result of that.
Mhm.
And again, like you know, Genshin is still always going to be like a star example of they whether it was as intentional or not as people like to say of like, oh no, it's just a company trying to copy Nintendo or whatever. I I really appreciate what Genshin Impact and MiHoYo as a whole have done as far as like engaging or like creating that sort of game world and making it interesting and just rewarding on its own to go through without really, I don't know, having to like turn it into like, all right, now go find like 1,000 feathers or whatever.
Right, yeah.
Um, it's just the so the main thing I kind of want to point back to on Breath of the Wild at it feels like you know exhuming an old corpse just to punch it in the face, but no, the combat, just the way that weapon degradation, like even at the end games, uh, constantly shows up. It makes combat for me less fun
Yeah.
because it's always this war of attrition, and it stops feeling like, oh yeah, I won because of a skill thing, as opposed to like, well, my backpack was big enough, so I was able to deal with the damage sponge.
Yeah, that was my biggest complaint about it is the combat. I didn't like the weapon degradation aspect, and I felt like I never wanted to use my good weapons because I was saving them for
Yeah,
whatever reason. And like I said, I just hit a point to where I was like, I think I got to 3 out of the 4 divine beasts, and then I was just like, "You know what? I'm good."
when the only thing that made the Master Sword feel like truly special was like in certain parts it didn't break,
Yeah,
and like that's
in
what made it
certain
like,
parts.
yeah. I've not finished the master trials to fully upgrade my master sword so that I think across the entire overworld it won't break. I think is what the full point of that is, and even then it is.
Yeah,
I you know what, for people that have fun with the whole like survival games thing, like more power to them. I was not appreciating having to deal with 100 floors of the one island where you go there and they just take all of your equipment away and tell you like, all right, good luck, fight with a rock.
right, yeah. Few other
Ah,
like smaller things of note that came out of this direct that I liked new WarioWare, WarioWare Move
hmm,
It. Um and they are making a Luigi's Mansion 2 remake.
yep,
Um and then they did show off a little bit of the Nintendo Museum. They talked about that a little bit. Um
yep,
that seems pretty cool.
yep.
Um
That was new to me.
yeah.
Uh,
Other than that, pretty standard direct. I think the big standouts are the ones that we mentioned already with Princess Peach,
hmm.
and Paper Mario were really the two real big ones, in my opinion. And for me, Mario versus Donkey Kong.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I would say for me like the ones that still kind of so I really enjoyed the first Detective Pikachu game, so I'm happy to see it is making a return. Um, but I will. I was excited to see that Aiden Chronicles showed up on the direct with a release date because that is actually um, I ended up kickstarting that back originally when it
oh, okay.
was first being pitched. So I and like within hours of the direct, I finally got my backer survey to be like, "Hey, which system do you want to get this on? Because like we are committed to this date." So like, I'm excited that this game that I backed about 3 years ago now is in fact moving forward and going to be in my home to play. So that's going to be cool. We already did talk about F-Zero 99, and I am here to say that it is. I am very bad at it, but I am having a lot of fun with F-Zero, and it is the most enjoyable game I've been able to play lately, where I just keep crashing in 50% of my races.
Yep. And that's
Um,
F-Zero. Yeah.
and I'm because I really do enjoy the art style for Vanillaware games. And being a kind of a strategy RPG fan with growing up playing like Final Fantasy Tactics Advance and then Fire Emblem. I am going to be paying a lot of attention to Unicorn Overlord as that starts to come closer to launching.
Yeah, yeah. I actually forgot about that because I forgot what it was called. Um, but I was like, man, this looks really good. And then I forgot it was called Unicorn Overlord. But yeah, that looks really good.
Yep.
Um,
So I oh, and just another side note of I do appreciate Riot releasing more games that have to deal with the League of Legends world, because I think those characters are very cool and interesting on their own, and just doing so in a way so I don't have to play League of Legends.
yeah, right. Um, and then this one we'll kind of probably go through everything that was here because this state of play was actually a lot shorter than the Nintendo Direct, or
Hmm.
they didn't show as much. But they had a state of play the same day, that afternoon. And the first thing they showed off was this game called Baby Steps.
Hmm.
Um, and it just looked really funny. You're just this guy. It looks like, do you remember? You ever heard of the game Quap?
Yes.
It looks like that on PlayStation.
Do
And you're
do not
playing this.
recite the old words to me.
Yeah, it literally, it's like this dude in like long underwear pajamas, and he's just walking like this, like like a baby. And you're just like navigating these different levels. So that looked
Let me
funny.
pull up the video for it because I've not watched the state of play, unfortunately, so I'm curious exactly.
Yeah, look up that trailer, and
Oh,
I'll go through a couple of
oh,
these.
just this thumbnail.
Yeah, yeah. I'll go through a couple of these other small ones while you pull it up. But
Okay.
they showed Roblox for the PS5 and PS4. My
Okay.
daughter would be pretty excited for that 'cause she was pretty big into Roblox. Then they kind of did a VR block with Ghostbusters VR. Rise of Ghost Lord is what the name of it is.
Okay.
Then they showed Resident Evil 4 VR, and then they showed the two Resident Evil 4 DLCs, Resident Evil Separate Ways and Resident Evil The Mercenaries. Um,
Okay.
and then let's see. They showed off more of the Avatar game, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. I have zero interest because
Yeah.
it looks like a Far Cry set in the Avatar universe. Um, because I believe it's made by that same team too. Because I know Ubisoft is publishing it, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Far Cry team's on it. Because it looks and feels like a Far Cry.
No,
Um,
I don't have. Sorry, I'm now getting back to watching
nope, nope.
the Baby Steps trailer and
I want to know
like
your reaction.
just I know I have no room to really talk, but this is a very caked up dude.
Yeah, he's got, yeah.
Oh,
Live reactions.
this
li-
has a lot of getting up to like go to the bathroom at like 4 a.m. vibes.
for sure, yeah. The fact that he's in like pajamas, like basically, is pretty hilarious.
Is
Um,
he gonna kick? Yeah, of course he's gonna kick over the stupid rock thing.
um,
So rude.
Then they showed Ghost Runner 2. They showed some new PS5 controllers and skins. They're gonna do red, a volcanic red, so more of like a deep dark red. Because I think they have like a fuchsia and a pink right now, but they don't have like an actual traditional red.
Hmm.
Um, they're doing a more of like a cobalt traditional blue instead of the light sky blue that they have right now, and then they're doing like a silverish chrome one. Um, they showed Helldivers 2. They showed more about Spider-Man 2, which looks great.
Hmm.
I'm super excited to play that. I will probably end up borrowing it from Dustin to save money, but when he's done with that, I will definitely be checking that out because I've liked both Spider-Man games so far. Like Spider-Man Miles Morales actually a little bit better than the original Spider-Man, but just swinging in that game is fun.
Yeah,
And
I
they showed off now that you're gonna have like the glide ability, the little web glider.
oh, cool.
So you'll have that too. Um, then they showed off the Tales of Arise um DLC, Beyond the Dawn is what it's gonna be called. Um, they showed Honkai Star Rail off. Um, and then they announced an open beta for Foam Stars, which is that Splatoon like. Um,
Okay.
and then the big one at the very that they closed the show with was a new trailer and date for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And of course announced all the additions and whatnot. It's coming out by the end of February. Uh,
Mhm.
so uh, really excited for that one.
The most
Um,
Februaryest of days of all.
yeah, and I think I read somewhere that I can't remember where, but it's gonna end pretty much right where Aerith would traditionally die.
Yes, so I've not watched the trailer for it, which I know is probably a surprise given, um, my my appreciation of most things Final Fantasy. And like, yes, I think I'm just at a point of still feeling a little bit of fatigue with everything that's come forward since uh uh all the different things that they're running for or running with for Final Fantasy 7 again.
Mhm.
So I'm just giving myself a little bit of a break there, but I am interested. I'm looking forward to playing it. I want to be able to also have my fiance play through the remake
Right.
because it for there are a lot of words to be had about the remake, but like overall, I did enjoy my experience. I had
I
fun.
loved it. I really liked
I
it.
I I didn't agree with everything that the story did, but I was at least left off in a point of like I am curious how this is going to go.
Yeah, for sure.
And um so like most that I know to expect for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth at this stage is that yes, it is. I've been told that it's supposed to end off in the Forgotten City, which is where the big event of Final Fantasy VII is supposed to occur, and that is the proper end of the first disc of the game.
Oh, that's the
Um,
other thing they said. This is gonna be on 2 discs.
oh, that'll be neat.
Um,
Um, not in the way of like one's the install disc and the other one is the actual gameplay one.
they didn't say. They just said on 2 discs.
Okay.
So,
I could have sworn that's what they did for remake back when it was on PS4 as well, but in any case, I digress. Um the two things that I have just picked up from the ether on the rebirth announcement is 19 inches of Sephiroth statue.
yep, for the $300
And
edition or whatever.
yeah, and honestly, like I don't want to like sound like a sourpuss or anything like this, or like I'm honestly relieved that it is a Sephiroth statue because I have no interest in having that in my house, and that is good because I don't want to have to pay $300 for Final Fantasy VII right
I'll
now.
definitely get the one below it, the deluxe edition,
Yeah,
with
like
like the
that one,
art book
like
and stuff like that. But
yeah, like the art book and the like, even though it's a mini soundtrack, like those are my bread and butter, and like yeah, I like my cool figures and everything. I don't really like Sephiroth enough to have a giant Sephiroth.
I have a Sephiroth figure already, so the Advent Children one. So I feel like I'm good in that camp.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like I lucked out in the way that like if what came with it was a model of the High Wind, I would have been fucked.
yeah, you would have been like, and I bought 4 of them. No,
Yeah, they're mine. I have a squadron of
I have
high
a
no.
fleet.
Um no. The other big takeaway I have is Cloud on a Segway.
Oh my
That is
god,
all I have to know about anything with this.
I have a meme to send you after this is over, and it's hilarious about that along those lines. Yeah, I'm just excited for a PS5 version because
Mhm.
I played the first one on PS4. Although I will say that I don't know if they're still doing it, but you can do the free upgrade to the PS5 version if you have the PS4 disc.
Yep, I've
Um,
done that. I just
yep.
haven't been properly played because I beat it all on PS4 before I got my PS5.
Yeah, so did I. Well, the only reason I got the PS5 version is because I eventually got Intergrade finally.
Hmm.
So you play as which I don't know if you ever played Intergrade. Uh,
Not yet, but I would like to at
they
some
made
point in
Yuffie
my life.
fun as fuck.
That's good.
Yuffie is fun to play as. She's literally like Tifa with a giant throwing star. How she plays, and you can throw the throwing her big throwing star, and it'll like juggle an enemy in the air, and then you can zip to that spot where the throwing star is.
Oh, that's cool.
It's super cool. She plays super awesome, which I thought was awesome because I always thought that Yuffie was kind of like one of the more annoying characters to have.
I mean, yeah, she's a pain in the ass, but like, there's still always that level of like nostalgia for like, okay, yeah, it's Yuffie, whatever,
Yeah,
haha. She's the one who's gonna steal your materia. Just like give her a noogie later. I don't know.
yeah. And the story of Intergrade is not to spoil anything, but it's basically just to show where it takes place is it's basically alongside up until the plate drop. So it's what she is doing while you're doing all your other stuff.
Hmm.
Um
And like it was interesting to see how she got incorporated into there because I remember back when the remake first came out, there was like some whisperings or like rumblings of like there was another character that was like new to the remake. It was like, is this just Yuffie in disguise? And I'm assuming that Intergrade goes to just fully debunk that. Like, no, Yuffie's just off doing her own things, being Yuffie.
yeah, well, cuz she's from Wutai, she's kind of like they're kind of infiltrating
Yeah,
Midgar and stuff like that with a partner. Um and kind of goes just what basically what is she up to? I'm guessing up until she meets Cloud in the gang.
yeah,
Um,
and
uh,
robs them or whatever.
yeah. Um, but yeah, that was pretty much all from the PlayStation State of Play. Honestly, that one I felt the Nintendo Direct was a little bit more exciting. Other than the big Final Fantasy announcement
Hmm.
and that and showing off more of Spider-Man. Spider-Man is just looking great,
Yeah,
but I feel like I don't really need to see more of Spider-Man because it's coming out really soon here. Um, but
uh,
um, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. I just feel like Spider-Man and Final Fantasy VII. They're always going to be those like those titles that like any mention of them, like people are gonna get excited because like we understand they're fun. We know what this we're gonna be in store for.
Yeah,
Um, Nintendo, even though like yeah, I would say that they had a few in there that's like yeah, this does like doesn't really do much for me or whatever, but Nintendo is still the one that'll take more chances
right,
and put
mhm,
out some like at least announce more of like the weird things.
right,
And then we have baby steps. So like
yeah, and that thing is weird, but I love it.
I I love the fact that like that is how they open this show.
Yeah, they opened with baby steps. That was yeah, that was really good.
All right, you know what? Never mind. Sony, this was correct. This is how all directs should be from now on.
Yep, this is the right way to open. And honestly, even though I'm not a big VR guy,
Or state of play. I don't know.
um, the Ghostbusters game looked kind of cool because it was
Okay.
just you were running around with like your little pack and zapping ghosts. I don't have a PSVR because they're fucking expensive. My
Yeah.
brother-in-law does though, so maybe I'll mention it to him and we could play it at Christmas or something.
It it took me forever to get my PS5, and then to find out how much it would be. Or I just have to pay for another PS5 to get PSVR. It quickly cooled me on that experience.
And the fact that now that there's, pretty good chance that next Christmas when the next Nintendo console launches that there's going to be a PS5 Pro already.
Yeah, that's
Uh
disgusting to me.
yeah, it is. We've talked about that endlessly on this podcast that because I'll still get it because what happened last time with the PS4 was you
It
know,
became junk.
yeah, you had to basically have a PS4 Pro to have any decent running games on it. So it's like, do I want to get a PS5 Pro? No, but I feel like they're gonna force our hand a little bit. Um,
Yeah, if they make everything just optimized specifically to only be playable on that, then
yeah,
good luck.
yeah. But now we can get into the news proper here. Out of those events,
Yeah,
this
grumble, grumble.
yeah, this first story comes from Push Square, which is funny. It's a Sony website, but they wanted to talk about this too. And this is no surprise. This article is titled "UK Sales Charts: Starfield Soars While Mortal Kombat Hype Brings Back Mortal Kombat 11." Um, no real big surprise there. Just basically stating that Starfield has topped the UK sales charts in the week ending of November 9th. Um, the chart goes Starfield, Hogwarts Legacy, Mario Kart 8, still in the number 3 spot. The Lego Star Wars Saga, Mortal Kombat 11 at number 5, Tears of the Kingdom at 6, NBA 2K24 at 7, Grand Theft Auto 5 at 8, Fae Farm at 9, and then Minecraft at 10. And these are all specifically Switch titles. Um,
Okay.
or a lot of these are specifically Switch titles, but Starfield has blown up to nobody's surprise, really. I don't know. What do you think?
So Starfield is going to be one of those weird anomalies for me because I feel like I've definitely been living under a rock. Of I was not paying attention to it at all because I don't know. I just looked at it as being another like No Man's Sky type of thing, and like Outer Worlds, I think was the
Yeah.
Obsidian came with Outer Worlds, right? And that one
Yes.
also confused the hell out of me because Outer Wilds was also out at the same time,
I know.
and they're both very, very different. But
Yes. One is good,
uh,
one is not. No,
I'm just,
just kidding, not really.
I'm just over here like I still have fun playing Mass Effect.
My thing is like it's still a Bethesda ass Bethesda game. Like
Yeah,
it's and everything that I've seen from it personally, like everything outside of the combat looks awesome, but that combat still looks like every other Bethesda Fallout. And I didn't even really like Fallout 4. So, um
I I do feel like having because I didn't end up playing Fallout 4, but like I watched a good decent chunk of it, and like it was definitely just it was the prettier version of Fallout 3, but just I don't know it felt like it was missing some heart.
I just yeah, as somebody who like I said, as I've gotten older, I've definitely become more of like a narrative driven gamer, and I just couldn't get sucked into the story. It didn't do much for me. Like 3 in New Vegas did. And
Yeah,
then
New Vegas definitely has like the coolest beginning.
yeah,
Um, it is weird that somehow the ghost say like having your child stolen out of your hands opening still doesn't feel like it carries enough like momentum for a Fallout game.
right. And I don't know, like I said, everything about Starfield looked kind of cool. Like I loved the aesthetic, kind of like almost like a 70s style. Uh, it reminded me of like the inside of the ships of like the old Star Wars movies.
Hmm.
It definitely had that vibe. All that looked seemed cool, but then you got to the part to where you have to shoot stuff, and I haven't played it, so I can't say. I don't have an Xbox, so I can't say. I know Dustin's fiance has it, and she's been enjoying it. Um, but it doesn't surprise me that it sold well. It's a Bethesda game.
Yeah,
Bethesda games always do pretty well. Um,
I think it's okay, like because I've learned enough about myself from my time with like Skyrim of really enjoying it, but like if I get Starfield, it's just gonna be more of the same of like, yeah, I'll dump a lot of hours into it, maybe. Like it's difficult for me to even like commit to that sort of thing anymore.
mhm,
But like I'll still never feel the compulsion to like see any of it to completion because I never care about that by the end of a Bethesda game.
right, right.
And now like kind of getting back to that whole like, this is this is a fun topic for this whole entire podcast of me coming on of just like grumbling about like, man, I just get old and tired.
Yeah, yeah.
Why
I
can't my hobby be easier to do?
Yeah, I think I made the joke before that they shouldn't have difficulties in games. They should have them be like, all right, are you like a student, a college student, or a full time working adult? Like
Yeah.
they need to those should be your difficulty sliders. And then they will adjust it accordingly. Um,
I don't want to be shamed for picking the story difficulty.
right, yeah. Um, Next story comes from GameSpot. Cyberpunk 2077 players warned to check their PC cooling systems before Phantom Liberty launch. According to a quote on Twitter, it's from I'm gonna butcher his name, but Philip Persinski, I think is how you pronounce it. We use all that you have, so a workload on your CPU at 90% on 8 core is expected. To save time, please run a Cinebench or similar and check stability of your systems. Um, I say that game's already pretty graphically intense to begin with.
hmm
So no big shocker there. What do you think?
I just think it's a very like meta marketing move to, put out a cyberpunk style game as they are and basically cause or like make it so the only way to properly safely run it is to have their clients go through and steal parts from mega corporations.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
actually genius. So like good on you, CD Project Red.
and I know I have been tasked by Dustin's fiance Jess to give Cyberpunk another shot because I've said it numerous times on this podcast that I do not like Cyberpunk. Even when it started working, I didn't like it. Uh, but she has told me that she wants me to check out the DLC, so I may give it the college try as long as it doesn't set my PS5 on fire.
Yeah,
Um,
I would like to be interested in the cyberpunk story, and I've heard so many good things about Edge Runners, and I've still not even been able to bring myself to like play it because of this weird like FOMO thing that just kind of exists for all like multimedia properties for me.
yeah,
So it's like, oh, why would I watch Edge Run? Even like I understand they're completely fully separate. Like that's that stupid disconnect in my mind of like, well, why would I watch Edge Runners if I'm not planning on playing 2077 ever?
that's me too. Yeah. Um, Next story comes from IGN. This is kind of a small story. We typically don't talk about this stuff on the podcast, but bunch of news came out last week about the new iPhone. And the big thing of note is that well, for streamers, you're gonna be able to plug a separate camera into it. Um, but they showed it running Resident Evil Village and Assassin's Creed Mirage
hmm
on it. Um, and they say they're gonna be able to run like pretty much like modern games on it. Um, I don't really care that much if I'm being honest.
I
But what do you think about the whole, the iPhone, the next iPhone being able to run that stuff?
I mean, like, good for anyone that's like, going to be like wants to get an iPhone anyways, and is like, I feel like this is always going to be a generational thing of I'm never gonna look at you know conventionally playing games on a phone screen.
Yeah,
Like I'll joke about the fact of like I do play my gotcha games and everything, but it is different. I don't want to be playing anything that actually does require like both like simultaneous like movement and camera controlling and also trying to act at the same time. It just nothing about that sounds fun to deal with on just a singular phone screen on top, and then just you know how intensive any of the storage is going to be on something that size and heat and battery loss. It's just yeah, it
yeah,
it's neat. Like it's the natural progression of how technology is going to move. Like obviously they're going to keep pushing for more and more, and gaming is kind of that good benchmark to show that like yeah. If it can handle doing this, imagine how seamlessly it can do anything else you would want
right,
in your everyday life. So, like, sure, and so not surprising. Just it's a claim that's just kind of it doesn't excite me in any way because like nothing about this feels like out of the ordinary.
right,
If it's able to do it, cool. Um, I have my doubts, and even then, like it's not for me.
right. I don't really see it moving the needle with like people who are like hardcore gamers or just gamers in general. I mean, I could see it being cool for like really casual people who maybe don't have a console or don't
Yeah,
have a PC to be like, oh, I can check these games out. But like you said, battery life, heat, all these things are a factor. And yeah, just because they showed it running, uh, how,
and
like I said, how fast is that battery going to drain and things like that.
it's still a freaking Apple phone, so like, you know what, you accidentally like sidestep wrong into a wall once and your screen is just destroyed anyway, so
Yeah, yeah. I've been an iPhone user forever, and I finally cracked my screen for the first time, and yep, that's awesome. Next story comes from gamesindustry.biz. And this one had a lot of people in an uproar. And I was actually sent this early on by a friend of the show, Danny.
mhm.
Unity basically announced a bunch of new fees that they're going to be charging developers. Uh, and Basically, just breaking this down at a glance, Unity says only initial install will require a fee unless the game is installed on another device. Because originally everybody thought like if I install this multiple times, we'll be charging a fee. Demos will be largely exempt, and developers will be able to inform Unity if a game is for charity. Install fee applies to distributors, so developers with games in a subscription service will not be charged. So it seems like they had to walk back a little bit of this because man, people were pissed. Um,
Yeah.
it was
Um,
showing that starting January 1st, 2024, the company will charge developers using Unity Personal or Plus up to 20% or 20 cents for every install once a game passes $200,000 in revenue and 200,000 installs. Um,
there is there is no shortage of things to say about this. None of this is surprising. That a company would like. I think because I don't know. I've been catching wind of a lot of different chatter over this one, and what it ultimately comes down to is no one is surprised that Unity or really any other uh company behind an engine like an open source engine like this, or not really open source, you understand, a
right.
widely used engine in the way that Unity is, um especially once it went public, uh and eventually going this route of um championing profits over anything else. And the I mean, I believe the fallout for this one is just that it doesn't matter how much Unity tries to walk back any of the damage they've done. Uh, the trust is no longer there
Yeah.
for developers as a whole. A lot of this is really going to suck, and like the fallout for this is going to be pretty far reaching. They aren't without competition because like Unreal is still
I was just about to say that.
very widely used engine for um, indie developers. But like it's just there's so many different facets to this that and like I don't even feel like I'm really qualified to properly talk on a lot of it because I don't develop with Unity.
Right.
Um, but I just remember like it for the longest time, like for a decade now, it was like, oh yeah, if you want to learn like game design on your own, like why not check out Unity? Like, and it's just been it's very disappointing and just I don't know.
And I feel like
You know,
Unreal has kind of gone in the other direction. They've become more friendly, in my opinion.
mhm.
As somebody who did go to game design school for a little bit, we used both Unity and Unreal, and Unreal was like way more streamlined, and I felt like easier to, in my opinion, easier to use than Unity. And it just sucks for a lot of the people who are like, I've already seen a lot of like smaller publishers being like, all right, well, we're already this far into development of our game, so we got to kind of finish it up on Unity. But the next
Oh
one,
yeah.
we're going to be shopping around for
I
to use somebody
I remember
else.
I remember seeing a couple gutted posts of people like making jokes about like, oh no, Silk Song, uh, the Hollow Knight sequel is going to get pushed back another 5 years as they have to probably get off of Unity and go to a different engine. That being liked by one of the head developers over at Team Cherry was like, oh god, is this actually true? Because like we've been waiting on Silk Song for the better part of a decade at this point, and like
Right.
no, that's no pressure on Team Cherry. Like you guys do what you got to do. My understanding is Team Cherry is still like maybe a team of 5 or 6 people, if that. Um, but uh, no, the other thing about this that was just like the other story I remember reading in relation to this is how uh, one of the executives at Unity, um, within a week or like a week prior to the news for this all coming out, had offloaded like another 2,000 shares after
Oh yeah,
like
that was what I was
dumping
getting to
like
too. Like,
over the previous year, having dumped like close to like 8,000 or even more so than that. Just
which that just
trying to just it's like
that's
that.
a good move, right? You know that
And it's like, again, we talk about the whole thing of like, look, it happened to Martha Stewart, so really, like, we know this is illegal,
yeah,
and like even the terms of service change is likely illegal, and they're gonna have to deal with like a class action lawsuit. But even like again, the damage has been done here.
right.
I don't know if
Uh,
I have anything else to really say on it. It's really shitty business,
and
and
it's gonna hurt the smaller indie developers the most at the end of the day.
oh yeah, and like the ones that even can, I mean, no, um, even the bigger names, like the developers behind Rust and Cult of the Lamb, have been some of the most vocal voices I've heard on this whole thing of like, yeah, this is absolutely stupid and like incredibly asinine. And you look at things like um, basically what happened with the team behind Among Us. Of they go out, they develop this game for free and just put it out to in the ether. And okay, so Among Us may not have been free originally. I don't remember
But you bring up
anymore.
a good point. What does that mean for free to play games? Like,
Well, it's just yeah, the whole idea of like you have Among Us that got released in a vacuum, and like it's not that people weren't playing it before a pandemic or anything like that, but like once you get like one big name streamer who like finally comes across your game, like maybe a year and a half later, and all of a sudden like it just erupts in popularity, and then you're this team that really out of nowhere, on top of all the work that comes with trying to maintain all the servers and everything for that, suddenly you're getting a bill for like all of these like um all of these installs that just happened literally overnight,
right.
and just defuncting a company immediately
Yeah.
because they got successful.
Yep. It just sucks.
Yeah.
It's a shitty move. Um, Next story comes from Video Games Chronicle. And this is kind of a big one. Embracer Group is considering selling Gearbox, report claims.
Mhm.
According to Reuters, says Swedish company is looking to options for the Borderlands studio that might include a sale. Now we did just talk about last week that they closed Volition, which is the studio behind Saints Row. Um,
Mhm.
and now they're looking. It just looks like that because they didn't get that Saudi money they were banking on, um, that this group is kind of in free fall right
And
now.
so, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Embracer the financial group that ended up taking on almost like 80% of the IPs that Square Enix had been holding on to that weren't Final Fantasy or
Yeah, I believe it was like
Dragon Quest?
Tomb Raider and I think maybe
Hitman, I
Hitman,
want
I
to say, got.
believe. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, they took on a ton of them. And they were just kind of buying up all these IP without like having any real plan with them.
Yeah.
Um, and then, like I said, they were trying to get this Saudi. I had a story about it like a week or two ago about this games conglomerate out of Saudi Arabia that was supposed to that they were going to acquire, and then that deal fell through, and then their stock took a major hit because of that. And then ever since, it's been like Volition closing, and now possibly Gearbox, possibly being sold off. Um,
Yeah.
uh, Not a good time to be embraced. That's for sure. Um, yeah, terrible dad joke there. Not too much more to
Twen-
say about that, but
2023, not a good time for hugging.
yeah. Next one has got me excited. Comes from IGN. Nintendo controller patent raises hopes that Switch 2 will avoid stick drift issues. Just doing a quick scroll through this article. It looks like it's going to have like this magnetic fluid in it. Um, Kind of like similar to a Hall effect joystick, although those have actual magnets in it. Um, so I would take this a little bit with a grain of salt because companies file patents for things all the times and then never use them.
Yeah.
And the fact that the next Switch is going to have, or the successor to the Switch is going to have launch with an LCD screen instead of an OLED screen to cut down on costs. I wouldn't necessarily guarantee that this is going to be in stock controllers, but maybe their pro controller. I don't know. What do you think?
I just think we should really applaud the House of N for um, seeking a solution on this so quickly after the Switch launch.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Uh,
good job, guys. It's been 7 years.
the uh,
Uh,
the one thing that kind of jumped out to me is like it's like a magnetic fluid that's used in like hydraulics and stuff, I guess. And I'm just like, so great. Instead of having like Joy-Con drift, we're just gonna have like leaky thumbsticks now. Like,
um, yeah, I
I
think
don't know
this is
how it
bad at
works.
all.
Like,
Yeah,
so I can't really say, but that was like, am I gonna like run a magnet over my like next gen Joy-Con and it's just gonna start like oozing this stuff out of it? Um,
I would like to think that you know they've done something to keep ferrofluid fully contained and where it needs to be. Um,
You'd like to think, but this is Nintendo we're
yeah,
talking about.
I don't know. We just get weird leaky black dittos just showing up in our homes now, and we have to just deal with that. That is the price of Pokemon Gen 10. I don't know.
Next story here comes from Video Games Chronicle as well. And this was kind of interesting. Sources, Nintendo showed Switch 2 demos at Gamescom. The company is understood to have had held private tech demos ahead of an expected 2024 launch. And it was running that Matrix Unreal 5 tech demo that was on the PS5 and Xbox Series X in 2021. And it was also running Breath of the Wild at 60 frames a second.
Hmm.
Um, I say that's pretty awesome if they can hit that target. Now, of course, this is like probably a dev kit. It's probably not the exact like final form factor. Um, so it's probably just like, hey, this is our target. But what do you think of that?
I mean, it's difficult for me to really comment too much on, uh, like you said, so much of this is going to be up in the air, and who knows what we'll actually see once it actually gets its hands or gets into consumer hands.
Mm,
Uh, Obviously, the expectation is like whatever the Switch successor is going to be, uh, much more powerful than what came out back in 2016. Um, I I don't know. For me, it's one of those things of like we know we're getting to that point of like this whatever is going to be coming out is like it's more just like proof positive. Like it's going to be around the corner. Um, I I still have you know. I'm still going to be a curmudgeon about it and want to hold on to my current console. I'm like, no, I like this right now. This makes me happy. Don't make me
right.
spend another $400.
Well, my thing
But
was the thing that got me excited a little bit was the fact that originally they were saying that they were targeting like PS4 and Xbox One graphics, and I was like,
mhm,
I mean, I'm not a total like graphics snob, but at the same time, like being that far behind was kind of like a bummer
I think
for me. But if they're actually now hitting closer targets to like a PS5 or Xbox Series, that's a little exciting.
I
Um,
think I think the thing that I'm gonna really want to see move forward less on like graphical fidelity for or even like hitting frame targets for whatever Nintendo's next console is going to be is I just want Nintendo to have the standard of anything else that's online based to have functioning net code.
yes.
If we can just get like rollback support on everything, rollback on fucking Smash Bros would be just phenomenal.
Or how about a voice chat ability built in instead of having to use like a third party app on your phone?
Uh,
Um,
Well, first of all, Nintendo does not employ sorcerers, so that's not something that's going to happen. But I appreciate you wanting to bring that to the table.
Yeah, no
No,
kidding.
yeah, there there's so many things that it's just like I'm used to just not having with Nintendo's friggin' live services that you know,
Yeah.
I I don't know how like I can go back. I don't know how I can like go from something like Xbox Live where everything was just like so well done and just like perfected right out the gate, and then come back to a Nintendo and just like all of a sudden I'm back to living in the cave.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, it's just I'm just so used to just like having to live without to play my fun Pokemon and Zelda games. So like, yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. That shouldn't even be like a bare bones ask. That should just be like, why wouldn't that be included? And it's just like the whole like Nintendo side of like, why would it be?
Yeah, exactly. Um, Next story here comes from Eurogamer. Ubisoft's free-to-play shooter X Defiant was delayed due to console certification issues. Basically, it didn't pass cert. Now, I saw a lot of shitty takes online being like, "Oh, this must mean the game's not very good." But I mean, games don't pass cert all the time, and it could be something as simple as, "Hey, you didn't have like an X button prompt in this spot where I think you should have." Um, but uh, at the same time, I don't know how many people are really interested in this game. It's a free to play shooter in the year 2023. Um, that's supposed to be very Call of Duty esque. Um, it says here, according to this article, at the end of July, we started this process and we got our first results back by mid August, which was not a pass. We realized then that we had more work related to the compliance than we had anticipated. If it had passed, then we would have been able to ship at the end of August, but it didn't. So we've spent the last 3 to 4 weeks fixing those issues and getting ready to do another submission. Um, Not too much more to say about that, just that it didn't pass cert and people shouldn't freak out about it because games usually don't pass cert their first time around. Um, this just happened to leak and now people are just like kind of jumping all over it, like, oh my god, look, this Ubisoft free to play shooter that's trying to be like Call of Duty didn't pass cert. And it's like, dude, if this never had leaked, you would have never known. You would have just seen, hey, this game is delayed, and that's it. They did say now that it's likely to come out in October, but nothing much more to say about that. Do you have anything to add?
No, and I don't want to like come off as being rude or anything. It's just this is the first I'm hearing of this game now, and I don't expect that I'm going to be playing it regardless. Like, I'm glad that the process seems to be working of catching any sort of issues. So like, good on you guys. Like, there obviously the crowd is out there for playing this. It's just it's not I'm not in it.
Yeah. Next one comes from gamesindustry.biz. Reed Pop and ESA part ways over E3. Now, if you remember the last couple years, Reed Pop, who was behind PAX, was partnering with the ESA to kind of help fix E3 and kind of get it back to where it was. And I guess that they're kind of done. And it apparently it was a mutual decision. And according to the SA's CEO, we appreciate ReedPot's partnership over the past 14 months and their support of ongoing efforts to bring the industry and fans together through various events. While the reach of E3 remains unmatched in our industry, yeah, okay. We are continuing to explore how we can evolve it to best serve the video game industry and are evaluating every aspect of the event from format to location. We are committed to our role as a conveyor for the industry and look forward to sharing news about E3 in the coming months. Uh, I'll let you take this first. What do you think?
I I mean I don't know. I guess from the fact that this was a split after 14 months, I'm going to assume that this was not a plan.
Mhm.
Like this was going to be the term of business they were going to be working under. So it's good to hear that it's at least mutual, by whatever business speak that truly comes out to mean. Um,
I just
I don't
feel
know.
this
I
is
think
kind of like the nail in the coffin once again for E3. I know we've been saying that a lot. We've now gone like what, about 2 years in a row without an E3 proper,
And
and that void has been filled by Jeff Keighley and Summer Games Fest and the kind of surrounding events. Uh, Everybody's putting on their own event. You got the Guerrilla Collective, which is a smaller indie, showcase. You've got like the what is it, like the Wholesome Game Show. Everybody else is putting on their own thing now. Um, that do we even really need an E3 anymore? Um, which
the
if you would have asked high school Chase if you would ever see E3 dying, you'd say hell no. But now, I mean, after being this deep in and going this long without one, and also there was that story like a few years ago about like the ESA leaking everybody, like all the journalists' information and stuff like that. So the trust in the ESA is like gone.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. What do you think about the whole prospect of like there no longer being an E3?
I think the fact that like nothing has felt like it's really changed negatively in as far as like games coverage and hype being driven up for new titles and anything with the absence of E3. So I think that's kind of speaking volumes for their future. I don't like to be negative on other people's behalf and everything, especially with something that like was was a constant all throughout like our you know our formative years of like engaging with like games media and like yeah, ether used to be this big thing that was so exciting to like hear about like anything special coming out of it. And now it's we we live in the age of instantaneous um information delivery, so like why would we put much stock in a once yearly expo that like in its dying years became more and more resistant to um opening itself up to common gamers as opposed to just opening its doors to execs and marketing firms. So yeah, it's
And we've said it before on the show too. It's like it's just expensive for developers to go out there and rent space. Like it like why do that when you could do like what Sony and Nintendo's been doing, do a state of play or do a direct,
yeah.
like, and get your information out that way. We're gonna cut a couple stories that were kind of small, and move on to so we can bang these last few out because I'm getting the look from my son, and he is
Oh
losing
no.
his mind. So we're gonna bang these last few out real quick. Horizon Forbidden West Complete Edition has been revealed by Singapore Rating Board, and this comes from Eurogamer. Apparently, the Horizon Forbidden West is going to be getting a complete edition with the DLC with it. Um, I did not play the next Horizon game. I still probably need to eventually get around to it. I played the first one and liked it, and I kind of was one of those games where I didn't really want a sequel, but and of course everything now gets sequels.
hmm
Um, but I don't know. What do you think of that?
So I don't have much to comment on. I'm in the same boat of I have not played any. Well, I have not played any of the Horizon series. They look interesting. I just it just hasn't been on my list, so I've kind of kept myself pretty distant from it. It it's neat that I don't know. It's cool that they are still going to be trying to support with like these package releases. I'm a fan of those. I think they do work well for people that have been gun shy about starting or about getting into series like this. So I I imagine it's going to do well. I don't think it's going to be a real anything too meteoric though. So
Yeah. Um, Next story had me really fired up. We're at the last three stories here, but this one
hmm
I might rant on this one. Who knows? Um, this comes from IGN, and the title of this article, in my opinion, is super misleading.
hmm
Um, Says Square Enix loses nearly $2 billion in value since Final Fantasy 16. And now you would think that would mean that 16 didn't sell well, but if you scroll farther down in the article, what it actually says, uh, A new report from Bloomberg painted a bleak picture of Square Enix, which reported a sharp profit decline in August. Analysts told the publication that Final Fantasy XVI failed to make up the poor performance of previous Square flops like Marvel's Avengers and Forspoken. So it tells me that it was those games' fault why they lost the money, not Final Fantasy 16. Um, yeah, that. What do you think of that whole the wording of this article?
So I think this is just going to kind of get back into um, people are just trying to reignite the drama that was uh, a very. I feel like it was a very vocal minority of people just kind of going after Final Fantasy 16 because it didn't look Final Fantasy enough.
Right,
Um, I am curious how much of this is still a narrative that is being um, sold throughout Square as a company, because I think there was a lot of unnecessary like things I've kind of picked up for in the in chatter is just that it looks like there were a lot of unnecessary expectations put on Final Fantasy 16 as like a savior of the series after Final Fantasy 15, on launch did not really live up to the expectations it needed to, and unfortunately never did get a proper resolution to its story. But yeah, I don't know. I I've had a lot of misgivings on um the corporate plans that Square Enix has shared moving forward and how they wanted to monetize their titles. These are just the ones that have been, made aware like publicly. The doubling down on um, NFTs and
right.
um, other blockchain technologies and trying to implement those in their games. Um, I mean, that's I don't know. That really is the big one of like, guys, just fucking stop.
Well, also like Square Enix, we've talked about this before on the show. Square Enix has this habit of a game will be a success and it will still be like it hasn't met our expectations. And it's like, well,
No,
what were you expecting? Like
that is
they're
absolutely true.
expecting every game to be like to sell like Call of Duty numbers, and I'm sorry, Call of Duty is extremely popular, even if we might not be the biggest fans of it. You're never gonna meet those numbers. Uh, they those. I mean, maybe you will, but I don't see it, and you can't keep chasing that dragon, um,
Yeah,
so to
I
speak.
I look at the failures of they. I feel like as a company, especially Square Enix marketing, um, they've grown conceited over the years, and they don't really pay attention to who their user base is when coming out with new projects or new types of like what they're trying to actually market. Like, remember back when Final Fantasy 13 launched, and there were uh all these like crossover events or like crossover products that they had with like freaking Gucci or all these other like high end uh fashion houses, and it's just like the typical Final Fantasy player does not make the sort of money
Right,
to purchase any of that. And even then, like, you look at some of the stuff that comes out for like um celebrating like anniversaries in regards to like Final Fantasy 7, and they're like these, $400 to $500 watches that, first of all, most people our age aren't even going to be wearing them except for like as a fashion piece, and even then, not the typical Square Enix fan is not making bank to the degree to have, you know
yeah,
basically half of smartphone's payment worth to just like put on a watch or
right, right. Well,
jewelry
even
or anything else like
looking at
that.
like their figure prices, I'm sorry, they're like ridiculous, like
No,
in their
they
store.
and they keep pushing the needle on that one too, and it's like, yeah, there's a lot of like, you know, I I was really excited, and like um for a bit there, I was planning on getting the collector's edition of Final Fantasy 16 as well, and I eventually had to I downgraded down to the deluxe edition. So it's not like I still didn't pay more than what the price of the game disc was going to be, because I still find that stuff exciting, but it's like really having to come down and like look at like, okay, the actual content of what I'm getting um doesn't like I don't physically have the space for this a lot of this stuff, and also like the price to value just isn't properly there. And like
Right.
I even like I was bummed out for a bit because I've talked about, or I alluded to playing the Star Ocean Second Departure remake, because the demo went live earlier this week, and you know it's been a fun blast for the past, because it's one of those games that I only ever got to play through renting from Family Video, and I never got to beat it as a result of that. So I am excited at the prospect of, not only be able to get to see like how things have changed in the 20 years since I first booted that up on my PlayStation 1, but like just just to see how like things have changed, like um how the visuals have been able to be fleshed out and remade, and like it's been fun. I've been enjoying like the single hour I played of Star Ocean so far. It's just been very like nostalgic, but I got bummed out because I really wanted to get the collector's edition because I wanted to support it. And first of all, Square's site was not exactly um super effective at being able to allow me to pre-order said thing. But then I got to looking at like what the actual content of the collector's edition was for a game that they were going to have retail at $50 was $200 on top of that, and it was a bunch of acrylic stands to the characters. Like, yeah, that sort of thing's cool, but like, what am I going to do with it?
Right.
There was the 4 disc like soundtrack for the entire game, which like in an asterisk on the actual like order page for the collector's edition was going to be sold separately at a later date anyways. And then after that it was a like 40-page art book, and it's like that's not $200.
Yeah. Um,
And I just feel like that is the mark, or the benchmark that they set for themselves, and they
it's
just keep pushing it.
when people like say it's like the Apple tax, like with iPhone and stuff. It's very much like the Square Enix tax. Like it's the
Yes.
same thing. Um, and
And even
my other small takeaway before we move on to these last two stories is just that I've never been the biggest fan of IGN, if I'm being completely honest. And that article was just super clickbaity. Let's just
Oh
be
yeah,
real.
sorry. We not even get back to the yeah, it was a very shitty article, but that's what it ultimately comes down to at the end of the day is it just more trying to get people to read just based on um pre-existing like sour feelings over Final
Because
Fantasy
if
16 that are fully unfounded.
because if you were not to click into that article and read, you would fully expect like, oh, this must mean 16 isn't doing well.
Yeah.
No, it didn't make up the cost of two other games that didn't do well. Like that's
Yeah,
what it came down to.
and that's not Creative Business Unit three's fault that those two went on or didn't actually perform well. It was honestly for Forspoken, I think it suffered a lot from just very poor marketing on Square
Mhm.
Enix's side, and for Marvel, I think they just released a bad game.
Yeah, it wasn't that great of a game. Um, yeah. So bad all the way around. Last two stories here, and we'll just touch on this one super short. Mario Kart Tour, which is the mobile game, is not getting any new updates after October 4th. So if
Okay.
you play that game, um, get all your playing in now because they're going to stop supporting after October 4th. And then the last one is just a really small one that we can kind of talk about a little bit. Steam turned 20 this week, um,
Okay.
which is pretty crazy. It launched September 12th in 2003, and it actually launched to like a lot of people hating it at first. But now, I mean, can we really imagine a world without Steam? Um, you even have other services like Epic has their own launcher, kind of like it's one big competitor. But I mean, it's really nice to have like all your PC games in pretty much one place now. Um, and it didn't used to be that way. What do you think about Steam chugging along and making it this far?
I mean, they're I don't know what. Steam's just so like
It's the
monolithic at this point. It's like Google.
it's like the
It's
iTunes of games. Like,
yeah, truly. And the bigger thing that sticks out to me, I was like, oh, so what? It's been like 20 years since Half-Life 2. Then okay, cool.
yeah, right.
Because I truly believe that the success of Steam killed Half-Life 3.
Yeah, it probably did.
There's no reason to release it.
Nope, they
Why
don't
would
have
anyone
to.
do,
They don't
why
have to.
why why would anyone put put themselves in that position?
No, no. Um, but yeah, that's all I have this week for the podcast. You can find us. You can follow us on social media. You can follow us on Twitter and on YouTube at _BlackBoxSignal. Follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/BlackBoxSignal. You can also email us at blackboxsignal@gmail.com. And we are pretty much everywhere now. We even have a TikTok. I haven't posted anything on that in a while, but hey, it's there. Spotify, everywhere else that you listen to us on. You can follow me at chasing_chase on Twitter, chasing chase TV on Twitch. I'm also on Blue Sky at chasing chase. And yeah, do you have anything you want to plug, Zach?
No, just keep on being cool to each other.
Keep on keeping on. All right. Very, very wise words from our wise sage here. But man, it was fun having you on. We're definitely have to do this.
Fun.
We're gonna have to do this again sometime for sure.
Oh yeah, no, keep me in the loop. This is a good time.
All right, guys. Well, until next week, as always, stay safe, comrades.